The first thing that happens is soil microbes, a class of soil microbes called ammoniacal bacteria will eat it and convert it to ammonia. Their waste product is ammonia. Another class of bacteria called nitrate bacteria will use that ammonia for food, and its byproduct is nitrates, and that's what the plants see. So if you do use it, you want to use it very lightly and often. Very, very light feeding once a week is fine. I tried it once before when I first started with corn. Corn's a heavy nitrogen beater. Urea's got a lot of nitrogen. I loaded up the ground with urea. In about 5 days, I couldn't get within 20 feet of the cornfield because it was so much ammonia. I couldn't breathe. And by the way, all corn plants died because ammonia's pretty caustic. But yeah, it's just something I wanted you to throw in the consideration of your processes. A point I want to make also, by the way, and it was mentioned earlier, is that when you take any material off a garden or any plant you're doing, it doesn't matter whether they're vegetables or flowers or whatever. Whenever you take the material away from that garden, you essentially are mining the soil. Keep that in mind. You're mining the soil. There was things there before that have to be replaced to get back to the normal place. A lot of things like nitrogen, that comes from the air, we can deal with that, okay. But things like the zinc, the phosphorus, potassium, those are being taken away and we have to eventually return them. Okay.
I have a question about the biochar. What is the temperature range that you're looking for?
When you make it?
Yes.
Ideally, about 950 degrees Fahrenheit. Best way to design that, or to figure that, when you make a tea lead, like the gallon tea lead, excuse me, when you make one of those and burn it, it will actually get red hot on the outside. The can.
I'm a potter, so I'm into different ways to burn.
You probably know the color scale too then.
What?
The color scale.
Yes.
There are certain colors associated with certain temperatures. You're working with the right up dark red to cherry temperatures, okay. That's around 1,000 degrees is what you're working.
So can you take an old kiln, like a
Oh,
small
yeah.
kiln, or just like do like a pit fire kind of a thing?
Yeah, in fact, what we make is we call them kilns. They're, you know it's a kiln, it's something that you fire. Kiln just gets hot, really. Okay. There is a way to make biochar without even having a kiln. If you dig a trench, like in your garden, you dig a trench, roughly 6 by 6. Fill up the trench, one end or the other, with small twigs and stuff like that. You want to have it all about the same size, and you don't want anything any big, because you get, again, the problem with time. Set it on fire and let it burn until it stops flaming. And just rake the dirt on it. You put biochar in your soil.
Just do what then? Just put dirt over it?
Just take you made a trench, and so you got dirt was filling the trench. Just rake it back over the burning. The burning.
So what you want to do is you want to stifle the air getting to.
That's right. You've probably all had, like I said, you burn a fireplace, and you saw the flames come up, and then the flames die down. What you've got left is charcoal. In a normal fire, you'll continue burning that fire, charcoal will burn up. But if you can make that charcoal without burning it, you have the equivalent of biochar. And that's what you're doing in this case. You just dig a trench, fill it up, burn it, stop fire, stop flaming, and just rake the dirt back over it. Problem, sometimes the fire department's not real happy with it. Okay.
I live in the woods.
So yeah, I used to. That's one of the hard things I've had to adjust here. I lived on 6 acres out in the country, and you could get along with just about anything, up to and including having 3 or 4 or 5 loads of mulch delivered, dumped anywhere in the vicinity. I live in a regular neighborhood now, and it's been a real eye-opener for me to just try to get source material anymore and that kind of stuff. But anyhow, enough on the urea. Okay, again, we've talked about lump charcoal from the supermarkets. It's available online, very expensive. Make it yourself. And I'll run that a little bit more detail now. And you can also get it from, like I said, the lump charcoal from the supermarkets. The technique when you make it yourself, considering you've got a 1 gallon tea light, you let it burn, watch it. You can see in the holes you're letting for air. You can see the flames in the everything working. As the flames die down, take off the top portion, and we use welder's gloves. It's hot. It'll get sometimes pretty uncomfortable on the fingers, but I never burn myself. Okay, just set that aside. Take the other can, the bottom can, which is the burner, dip it up in a metal can or metal pan, and add some water to it. Put it out. Bingo! You got charcoal, biochar. Good quality. Okay, that's it.
How do you think they used to make it in large quantities?
They
made it in beehive kilns.
I was in Death Valley this past winter, and they had this place that had I think it was from a long time ago. They had all these kilns, and they were so well preserved. They were all in a row, and that's what they made charcoal.
They look like an old style beehive. Come up and like that. And what they do is basically it's kind of like a tea light. They started burning from the bottom in that case, and they got a hole in the top to let the stuff go. But they don't worry about the smoke. They just let smoke like hell. And it'll work around, get hot in there, and it's totally contained inside these beehive kilns. They were either made from brick or stone. Sometimes they were made with mud. And they would be 30, 40 feet in diameter. I don't know how big are yours, about that?
Yeah, they were huge with only the holes in the top.
Yeah. And that hole's to let the smoke out.
And then there was a door, but then they bricked up the door.
Yep. And it just slowly let some air in there, much like the tea light lets that air come in from the bottom and provides just enough heat to cause the charcoal to be made. But that's how they made it. It is a nasty process. The smoke, you wouldn't believe it, because first of all, you get a lot of smoke, but there's all kinds of nasty stuff in the smoke that you want to get rid of. Creosote and all kinds of things like that. And so we've taken that process, made it much smaller, and also added the afterburner, so that at that point we burn up everything that'll burn, and everything's clean from that point on. That's a picture of my 1 gallon kiln. Standard paint can, pizza sauce can, and that's the beverage can opener, just a bunch of holes. That allows more air to come in. There's a lot of smoke coming off the bottom, and that mixes with the air in there, and it turns it real clean flame. And then, of course, you've got just a chimney on the top, and that causes it to continue to draft air.
How tall is that?
It's about that tall. You can figure a regular paint can, you know how tall they are. A regular pizza sauce can or number 10 can. It's not really known in the industry.
It's not as big as
And a big bean can is about that tall. That's all it is. Now we just take and punch holes in the bottom, and we use you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get a material or an item called a spike. I should have brought one tonight. The spikes are about that much in diameter. They're about that long. They're just like a monster nail. In my line, what I usually tell people, you've heard the term, I'll nail your butt to the wall. I got the nail. Okay. But we just take it, tip it overside, and just do a pattern of holes. Basically, holes in a cross pattern, and then holes 45 degrees in another pattern like that. And fill in other places where you've got some open space. Just punch a few more holes in and they're done. So you can see you can take the can, punch the holes in it very quickly, take another can, punch the holes for air, and set the one on the top. And there's one more thing I've got to do on the pizza sauce can, is that you take and draw a circle, just trace around the chimney can, punch a hole in the middle of the pattern you've made, and then cut it like sections of pie. And then fold those sections up. And that gives you the continuous hole to go through. Plus you've also got something that kind of centers that can on there and holds it fine. So, questions on that at all? Yes?
How do you ignite it?
You take the pizza sauce can off. This is fully of your feedstock, the chopped up material, the wood chop. You take 91% alcohol and just pour some on the top. The best thing to use is to have one of those lighters that they use now for fireplaces and that, and it'll light, and you don't have to mate or anything. Just put the other can on the top, and it'll take off.
And it'll burn from the top down.
Top down, right? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What's the stands on the bottom?
I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
I just did it originally, and those are just carriage bolts. But you've got to give it up off the air, off the bottom, because you got to let air come underneath it. Okay? So what I was doing was, I thought, I'll just put some legs on it. Too much trouble. I just now use 2 bricks. Yeah. Set one, this edge catches one brick and the other brick. No. So I'm kind of lazy. Yes.
In terms of putting the nutrients into the charcoal, could you just start mixing charcoal liberally into compost as well?
Oh yeah. One of the tricks that a lot of people do is, they will add like half and half. Biochar and compost. You get 3 benefits then. One, you're going to be spreading the compost anyway, so you'll just spread the biochar at the same time. Second of all, there's going to be moisture in there, and it's going to use the moisture is going to fill up the pores in the biochar. And thirdly, you're going to be inoculating it automatically. There's all kinds of microbes happening in the compost.
Is it going to make the composting process hotter?
It won't make it any different. It's an interesting thing. Biochar is so benign. We think of it as doing this great stuff, and it does. But it's lazy too. It doesn't do hardly any work. It just kind of lays there and does it, And that's what happens in compost. It doesn't make it any different as far as the compost action. Okay. I'm also making a 5-gallon. In fact, I was going to bring the 5 gallons tonight, but I've changed the design a little bit, and it's not quite ready for prime time. So I've got some changes to make and to get it to work right. Okay, there you get a picture of that spike. Okay. When you go to get one of those, it's going to bankrupt you. It's about 50 cents. I designed this kiln for women. I'm not a sexist, but in our culture, women are not trained, and it's getting much better now, but most women have not been trained to be comfortable with power tools. And so I purposely designed these to be all hand tools. And you've got the hammer that hits the nail. You got the tin snips that cuts it where you need it. You got the beverage can opener to punch the holes you've seen. And finally, you got just pliers to bend stuff around that you need it to bend. That's all the kind of tools you need to make one of them. And this is what we use when we're firing it up. We've got 91% alcohol to start with. Classic starter. That's just a slotted spoon that I got out of probably Walmart, maybe Target. It was less than $1. Okay, I'm kind of cheap. Not only am I lazy, but I'm kind of cheap as well. And this is welder's goods. Now, I don't know how many of you know about Harbor Freight in town. Boy, I'll tell you, that changed the world when it came to town. But one of the things they do is specialize in all kinds of supplies, and those are welder's gloves. And they're about $4 a pair. And they're designed to actually take really, really hot material home. It will get hot through the fingertips. I will not deny that. It gets pretty uncomfortable sometimes, but I've never been burned. And we're dealing with some stuff is red hot, and I can pick it up and move it and survive. Does anybody here know John Rogers? Okay, a few of them there. John Rogers is from Melbourne. Been very, very involved with permaculture for as long as I know. He's got a 2-acre tract in downtown Melbourne. Picture that. And he started making biochar, and he eventually covered his whole 2-acre tract with biochar. So he would do 4 55-gallon drum at one time, and he'd do that 6 times a day. And you get about 1.5 yards of biochar per day out of that. On his, it takes about an hour. Then the 1 gallon, it's 20 to 30 minutes, something like that. And so that you can see, you can have not only the small gallon can, but you can go all up the way to 55 gallon. By the way, John took a trip out, went to what's known as Stove Camp. And Stove Camp is a special group of these people that are making modified biochar kilns to use in the poorer parts of the world. It turns out, when you really look into it, the most problematic health problem in the world is respiratory disease. And it comes from people cooking over open fires in their homes, wood fires. And they're just smoky all the time. The Stove Camp people build a modified kiln and remember I said everything that comes off the top of the kiln is just CO2 and water vapor. Breathe it all day long with no problem. So they go down into the Central South America, and they teach the people to make these kilns, these stovetop, or these, they're commonly called rocket stoves. And teach them to make them from raw material that they get locally. There's a lot of cans that float around in the tropics. And what you get then is, you've got a little subsistence farmer, he may have an acre farm, and his family are living on that. So every meal, they cook their meal on one of the rocket stoves, and at the end of the meal, there's a double handful of charcoal available. Now that's not a lot, but they get it 3 times a day, 7 days a week. And it's turning a great big benefit to those areas because they are basically eliminating the respiratory disease. Plus, even though they're making a small amount of charcoal at one time, you're doing it regular all the time, and the farmers are becoming much more productive by using it. So, anyhow, John loaded up his pickup, and off he went to Amherst, where the Stove Camp was being held. And he said he got up there, and there were people having kilns. They were so proud. They had been made out of a can had been held corn, little tiny kilns. And And he said, "You take a look what I got." And people sit around with their mouth open. And his name is John Rogers. And now if you do any research in biochar, you might be come across a reference to a Jolly Roger kiln. And that's where it is right there. He developed it. It was named after him. Turns out there's a lot of things that are coming out of biochar. Some of it by intent, some of it just kind of looking into it. This is a photograph of a tailing pile. I don't know how many of you know what a tailing pile is from a mine. When they mine, they basically are digging up a lot of dirt. And in that dirt is a little tiny bit of whatever they want. And what's left over, they just pour in a pot, and it's called a tailing pile. Now this was the Hope Silver Mine. The first picture you see there, which is basically bare ground, that's a tailing pile that had been in place for over 100 years. And that's what was growing on it. And it had become a real problem because it was pretty near a stream that fed the water supply for a local town. And these tailing piles, this was a silver mine, and they took the silver out and left everything else. They left cadmium and lead and nickel and arsenic and you name it, okay. It was all in the tailing pile. And the water was seeping down into this creek. So a group said, we think we can fix that. And they came in, and what they did was plowed in, or disced in actually, biochar and dry cow manure. Things wouldn't grow on it before because it was basically toxic material. The dirt was toxic. The second one you can see there is grass that's waist high after a year of treatment. Treat it one time, and that's what happened. All of this heavy metals went into the biochar. It's still there, but it's locked away now. It's no longer active. And there are places in the world that have arsenic in the soil. Not a lot, you don't kill people with it, but it does knock down the intelligence of the children. And some of the places that are enlightened have started making their own charcoal, biochar, taking two 55-gallon drums, stacking one on the other, filling it up with biochar, and slowly filtering the water through it. And arsenic is gone. Okay, simple solution. It's one of the things that you watch all this stuff and you see do you know what an NGO is? How many people know what an NGO is? NGO stands for non-government organization. Red Cross is an NGO. World Wildlife Fund is an NGO. There's all kinds of NGOs doing good work, don't get me wrong. But they go in and they do all of these very complicated things with chemicals and pumps and all that. And other people are just doing this. You know, a couple of barrels with some charcoal in it to get the water straight up. Yeah. So, last thing, two things I'll add, and I'll get out of here. I'm getting kind of boring, I know. Probably was further than the start. But one of the things that I've shared with you here, they've done some research for adding biochar to cattle feed. Less than 1%, averaging 25% weight gain. And the other thing that's really nice is probably a lot of you have had some experience with chickens. And you know what chicken manure is like. Basically like a pudding. A guy started adding some biochar to his chicken feed. Instantly, it went from pudding consistency, almost not hard, but it was solid material. You could pick it up and it wouldn't mark your fingers or anything. Wow. And all of the aroma was gone. All the what? Aroma was gone. So, I mean, there's as we go through time, we find more and more time, all the things. But anyhow, yes.
Activated carbon is the same as biochar, basically, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
And no.
Oh.
All activated carbon is, or charcoal is is charcoal that's been treated, and it's usually with steam, and it increases the porosity somewhat, what makes it more effective than just regular charcoal. It's about 10%. And we don't even consider it in biochar because it costs a lot more and you just get a little bit more benefit.
But if you have a source of repurposing it, it's good to use, right?
Oh yeah,
Cool.
yeah, sure. Keep in mind though that when you use a charcoal for a filter, like a swimming pool filter, or filtering out heavy metals, it's loading up the charcoal all the time. And eventually, just like in any filter, they say you got to replace the filter now. So that's what happens. We don't get that problem in biochar because it is being loaded up with nutrients and then taking the nutrients are coming back out again. So that's the end of it, guys.
You want to see?
I tell you what, I've kind of run my mouth a lot. I'll hang around. If anybody have any questions, let's do it there. Or if you all want to ask some questions for everybody, I'll also gladly answer any question you have. I don't guarantee accuracy, just an answer. So that's where it is. If you don't have any questions right now, let's eat. Yes. Yes, sir.
You say it's good forever, but I mean, would it be 5 years or something where you'd want to mix it back into your garden or your raised bed, or?
2,000 years.
Really?
2,000 years. The process is purely mechanical. All that we're working on is having those pores, that surface area in the charcoal, which draws everything into it. And then we draw it back out. And then it goes back in, and it goes all back out. It doesn't wear in any way. Like I said, they've tested some of the material that they found in South America that was still considered very, very fertile soil, 2,000 years old.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
We have this real porous, sandy soil before you get to any kind of clay. So if you just keep putting it in the tops 6 inches, eventually it'll kind of work its way down.
Work its way down. That's one of the reasons that I propose the rule of thumb here. You don't want a real fine powder, it'll work bad. The second thing that there's always going to happen if you're gardening right in Florida, you're constantly building up the organic material in the soil. And if you're building up the organic material in the soil, you're getting earthworms. In fact, one of the ways I check my soil is I just look at the earthworms. How many do I got and how big are they? But the earthworms, as they work their way through the soil with biochar, they just munch away in the biochar like anything else. And so they help distribute it even more. Okay?
Did you all get a chance to look at the biochar in the packets?
Yeah.
That isn't the best biochar ever made.
The material, excuse me, the feedstock had a lot of leaves in that. It makes good biochar, it just doesn't look very good, so it doesn't have that nice particle feel about it. Ah. That's for you all.
Oh, really?
All right, thanks so much, Wae. And at this point, announcements. So if you have any projects